Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Money in the Morning, aka Economic Elevation, aka Financial Consciousness. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I hope everybody's having a great day. It's so good to see you. I hope you're feeling good today. I'm feeling awfully black. It is a Sunday, March 15th, 2026. And I was literally in my mind thinking 2024 or is it 2023, 2022. The time goes by so fast, right? And time waits for no man, no woman. So ultimately, we can't waste time. We got to get it done and to make it happen. Yeah. So today I was thinking about a few things that I thought would be fun to discuss in class. One of them has to do with Tyler Perry and BET Plus. I don't know if anybody saw this, but it looks like Tyler Perry's stake in BET Plus was bought up by Paramount Global or Paramount Skydance, which has merged recently with HBO, and it was a big crazy merger. By the way, if you were following it, if you like corporate drama and watching white people get ghetto with each other, that merger was really interesting. There was a lot really happening there with that, and so as a result of this, BET kind of got swallowed into the fold of that, right? So BET is just sort of well, a casualty, BET Plus, the subscription service, was a little bit of a casualty of this merger, not in the sense that it's not going to disappear, that it's going to disappear, but from what I understand, they pretty much did not want BET Plus anymore to be a standalone subscription service. They kind of wanted BET Plus. They said, hey, we're going to integrate you, you know that word integration. We're going to integrate you into our broader strategy with Paramount. And I'm sure Tyler got paid quite well and I had a good friend, Dr. Maat, who is a professor at Morgan State, who messaged me and said, I'd like for you to talk about this because I'd like to kind of get a perspective on what this means for Black media ownership and things like that. Now, mind you, I'm not really sure if Tyler Perry's ownership stake in Black media is all that reflective of the diverse range of Black culture, right? Not a lot of us. I don't know how many of you. Give me a yes. How many of you love Tyler Perry movies? How many of you? Give me a no if you can't. You would probably rather be shot in the testicles or have someone put a sledgehammer in your stomach than to go sit through a Medea movie. I don't know. I don't know which category I'm in. It depends on which movie you're talking about. But every now and then I'll peep at a Tyler Perry movie, and it's really hard for me to watch because it's just not my thing. And in fact, actually, there was one movie my wife and I watched. Actually, no, scratch that. One movie we loved was the one he did with the Black women that were in the military. Anybody saw that? I forgot what it was called, but it was really good, and he did a great job of representing the contributions of Black women, which I thought was great. But then there's another movie that I saw that was it was so depressing. I forgot what it was. It had that lady from Empire. Taraji P. Henson was in it, and my wife and I were watching it, and it was Straw, yeah, and it was really, really, really dramatic. Like this lady, like it was almost like the universe had just decided to take a dump on this lady's life, right? Like literally every single thing that could go wrong in a person's life happened to this poor lady in this movie. Like literally, like she was the least lucky human. It should have been called the most unlucky Black woman in the history of the world because everything was negative. And then the thing was, I asked my wife, I fell asleep halfway through the movie, and I said to her, I said, how did it end? Like, did it end? Did things get better? Like, did somebody come along and help her? Did her daddy show up and, stand up for her? Did she, like, what? And she said, no, she just got hauled away to jail. And I said, that's it? So she just crying and going to jail. Like, that's it? And so I don't know how that necessarily elevates the thinking, right? Again, no disrespect to Tyler. I told you when I met him, he was very nice to me on the phone when we talked. He called me out of the blue and we talked for a few minutes, and I liked talking to him. And also, I enjoyed the tour of the studio. He set up a tour where I was able to go around and check out his studio. It was so beautiful. I was so impressed. But that movie, man, I mean, I can't watch a movie like that because I would be on like suicide watch. It's like stuff like that. See, here's the thing. Here's what's really interesting. You got to be real careful about consuming content or repetitive messages in your subconscious mind that repeatedly remind you of how horrible your life is. Because guess what? All the studies show, the neuroscientists can tell you. One day we should just do a whole class on this. The neuroscientists, because I was watching a video about this just this morning. The neuroscientists will tell you that if you keep repeating negative things to yourself, I'm a victim. It never works out for me. My life is bad. It's so terrible for me. Oh my God, this is horrible. Oh my God, another black person got killed. I'm gonna get killed next. Like if you keep talking like that, then guess what? Guess what's gonna happen? Negative things are gonna happen to you. You're gonna start seeing the world the way you tell yourself you see the world. And also, you got to be real careful about what you say to yourself about yourself. If you keep saying negative things about yourself, like I'm a victim, oh my business ain't gonna work out, oh I'm just a terrible dad, oh I'm not good at math, I'm not very smart, I can't do it, I'm getting fat, this ain't gonna work. That will shape your worldview. It does. It's magical, actually. You can literally hypnotize yourself into believing the best things about yourself or the worst things about yourself. So I encourage you, focus heavily on that self-talk. And I'm not just a guy with an opinion. I have a wife who is an expert on the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind shapes how you view everything. So literally, I don't care what situation you're in, I would say find the most positive way to look at it. Like you could say, like if you suck at something, you could say, yeah, it's going to take a lot of work, but I guess I got to keep going to get better, right? Something like that's what I'll say. I'll be like, man, this is terrible, but you know what? I guess I'm gonna have to keep going, or it's gonna take me a while to master this. Man, whatever it is, right? Just something that's gonna give yourself some hope. But I'm gonna tell you, all this victim talk ain't good for your psyche because if you walk into situations just believing you're a victim and you're destined to fail and that doom is waiting for you around the corner no matter what, then you will find failure everywhere you go. You will literally failure could be hiding in the corner and running from you, and you'll be like, come in, get you. Well, don't do that. Don't do that. Positive thinking, really, that's a real thing. That's not hocus pocus. That's real stuff. All right, so let's get back to this thing with Tyler Perry and the ownership of BET Plus. So apparently Tyler had a 25% stake in BET Plus. That got swallowed up apparently by Paramount. Paramount Skydance, which is run. It's the people that are in charge are just suspiciously close to the Trump administration. David Ellison, who is, I think he's the CEO or something. He's a major shareholder. I don't know his specific role, but he's big. He's the white version of the HNIC. He called him the HWIC or something. But I don't know. Anyway, so Larry Ellison, the white HNIC of Paramount Skydance, is his dad is sorry, David Ellison is his dad is Larry Ellison, who runs Oracle, who's best buddies with Trump, the Trump administration. So, in case you didn't notice, they were in a massive, massive fight with Netflix over the acquisition of HBO and all their assets and Warner Media and stuff like that. And it got messy. At first, Netflix was going to do it. They signed a deal with Netflix, and then Paramount said, "No, no, 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 no." Like the wedding with Whitley in A Different World. Remember, Dwayne Wayne came in and said, "No, I want to marry her." So Paramount popped in like Dwayne Wayne in Different World and said, "No, we want to marry the company," and the company was confused, and the management of the company did not want to go with Paramount. But Paramount made a really strong offer, and they kept pushing, 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 and Um, Netflix absolutely hated everything that was going on. The shareholders of Netflix hated it. The shareholders of Netflix did not want Netflix to take over this company. So in a way, it's like you want to marry somebody really badly, but your family's like, don't do it, don't do it. So the shareholders, including myself, looked at this deal and said, no, it's not good. You'll be taking on way too much debt, and you're doing well. Your life is good. Like, why would you go marry this toxic lady, which called HBO's the toxic lady or whatever, right? But Netflix was like, no, but I love her. And so what happened was Netflix had the best blessing ever, which was that Paramount pushed up their deal to a higher level to the point where the Netflix people were pushed to the limit, and they just said, "We're done. We're not going to try any harder." So now the HBO is going to go into the hands of Paramount. So Paramount's now going to move on, and they won, but maybe they didn't win because they're going to take on a ton of debt. Like the amount of debt they're taking on is ungodly, and so I think they're going to fail. I think that they're not going to be successful. But one of the shall we say one piece of the collateral damage was that BET Plus got swallowed into the overall Paramount whatever their overall app, right? And so Tyler Perry, I'm sure he got paid, and now the rest is history. Now, if you want to know the history, the other history of how we got to this point, BET was founded in 1980 by Robert Johnson, who apparently just wanted to show music videos with strippers and stuff all night long, and apparently that's what we love, and that's so therefore there went black culture. Anyway, but he made money, right? So it must be okay because he made money, right? Right. So anyway, so BET also it became a public company in 1991. It was on the New York Stock Exchange. And then in 2000, 2001, Viacom bought BET for $3 billion, making Robert Johnson one of the richest humans, black people in history. And his wife, Sheila, is very wealthy. And that became kind of a controversial conversation in the sense that when you're talking about when you're talking about just the trade-off, right? Now, again, someone mentioned in the chat, I see the B, they're claiming BET didn't start off that way. But I remember at that time, a lot of black people had issues with the stuff they were seeing on BET. They didn't feel that BET was elevating black culture in the way that it was supposed to. It wasn't Viacom, Latasha. I'm sorry. It wasn't just Viacom. Bob Johnson, believe me, go look it up. He did a lot. He played a lot of the role in making BET popular by sort of feeding what people, the things that were going to get the ratings as opposed to the things that were always going to elevate the community. Now they tried to have a little bit of a balance. Like I think they'd have shows like Teen Summit, stuff like that. But really, a lot of people. Anybody remember anybody remember BET like before 1990? How many are old enough to remember the concern, or not even before 1990? Let's say before 1998. Remember, because remember that in the early 90s was about maybe 92, 93, maybe 91 actually. That was when you start seeing hip hop music start shifting in that direction of gangster rap. That was when sex trafficking culture became very popular within hip hop music. Remember Snoop Dogg, we don't love them hoes, right? And he would have pimps with him wherever he went, right? So I mean, think about this. You're promoting sex trafficking, like you're saying sex trafficking is great. You have a sex trafficker right next to you who's like, I keep my bitches on a leash, right? And everybody just like, oh, he's so cool. Where the hoes at? Where the hoes? Right? And all this debauchery, right? This really, this culture that's incredibly degrading to your daughters and to your people. This became celebrated. This became really big in the community, right? So ultimately, when you move forward and you're like, everybody's like, oh my God, it's so disgusting. Diddy's a sex trafficker. How could that happen? How could R. Kelly be a sex? Because you've been glorifying it. You've been celebrating it. Like when you call somebody a pimp, that was not an insult. That was not an insult to call a man a pimp. Tell me if I'm telling the truth or not. Tell me if y'all do you know black people the way I know black people? I study black people. I pay close attention. So it was not an insult to call a man a pimp. Oh, what's that? What's that pimping? What's that pimp? I don't know what you heard about me, but I'm a PIMP, right? So come on, man. Like what you glorify is what the children will look up to. In the late 80s, they glorified HBCUs and going to college. And guess what? Black kids started going to college and going to HBCUs. Then suddenly in the 90s, you're glorifying sex trafficking culture, and which led to a degradation in terms of the choices of young men and the way they viewed women, but also the way young women viewed men and viewed themselves. Right. And the women played a part in that too. Ladies, you can't act like you were the victims of this. Everybody was hit by this. We were all victims and perpetrators of this, right? So BET was a part of that. They were ground zero for what happened to black culture. And I don't care what nobody says. I'm not saying they didn't do anything good, and I'm not saying that money wasn't made, but I think there are some who would argue that BET was an example of how all money ain't good money, right? Now, moving on. So in 2000, Viacom buys BET. So, this black-owned media outlet is no longer black-owned, and then at that point, they kind of become the subjects of whatever Viacom chooses to do. The Redstone family, if I'm not mistaken, was running Viacom at the time. The Redstone family, of course, they are Zionists because they're good at owning things. And so suddenly black culture, one of the primary points of black cultural influence was driven by people who were not black. And in case you don't know, no other community would allow that. No other community would allow a bunch of black people to shape the programming that their children consume. But for whatever reason, because we were never trained on ownership and we don't understand the importance of it, we just would sit there and just watch whatever they put in front of us. So it's like letting the neighbor down the street decide what your child is going to eat every day, right? They get to grow the food. They get to decide what chemicals to put in the food. They can drug the food. They can drug your child, and they show up in a plate of food, and you're like, thank you for the food, and you feed your kids whatever they feed you, and next thing you know, your child is sick, or your child is crazy, or your child's addicted, and you don't know why. You don't know what happened, right? Well, because maybe you weren't conscious. There's that word consciousness. Maybe no one helped you have the consciousness of like, well, what exactly are you putting in the food for my child? Right? So, long story short, you move forward. Viacom split into two companies later. They became Viacom and CBS. They were separate companies. BET remained with the Viacom side. And then in 2019, Viacom and CBS merged together again because things change and the media landscape's very volatile, and they were trying to compete with Netflix. This was when Netflix and Disney were going to war around 2018, 2019. So Viacom and CBS merged to try to compete, and they didn't do very well. The company was struggling, and then Viacom became part of Paramount Global later on. And then they had the whole Paramount Skydance, and under the umbrella, they have big brands like CBS, MTV, Nickelodeon, Paramount Pictures, etc. And so in 2023, Paramount was going to sell BET. If you remember that, there were some bidders on that. Tyler Perry, Byron Allen, and some others. They were going to go raise a bunch of capital because I think it would have been very difficult for any of them to just purchase BET with money in their bank account, right? These acquisitions are not done with just like, okay, let me just write a check to own BET. No, in fact, it wouldn't even be smart, even if you had the money. Using some sort of debt and equity financing or having an investment group together is actually the preferred method to go about that. And personally, I don't know if I'd even want to own something like that. If I owned it, it would be for cultural reasons. It would be because I felt compelled to have some say in the types of messaging that our people receive and how news and information gets distributed. It would be more of an influence move more so than a financial move. I don't really own a lot of stocks in any of these companies because most of them have not done well. I bought shares of stock in HBO because I saw the Superman movie and I got a sense that it was such a great movie. I got a sense that they were trying to go the direction of Marvel. I said, okay, they're finally getting it right. They're gonna quit screwing up. Like how the hell did you gonna screw up Batman versus Superman? That's how terrible Warner Brothers was with making movies. They literally had Batman versus Superman, which to me is an easy slam dunk for anybody, and they messed that up. I'm like, you messed it up because you made it all dramatic and like a soap opera. Like, don't I said, I want to see Superman punch Batman in the face and Batman to come back with some tool or toy or cool car and run Superman over and I don't know, just something. But you giving me all this drama. I didn't come to see Gone with the Wind or Tales of Terms of Endearment. I wanted to see Batman versus Superman. They messed that up. That's how terrible they were. But they got it right. They got it right in the last Superman movie. They came out with this new Superman who's more Gen Zer. The Gen Z kids, they kind of like a bunch of wimps. I ain't gonna lie. They kind of whine a lot. No disrespect. If you're Gen Z, I love you, but y'all need to stop all that whining. And so anyway, the Gen Zers. So the Gen Z Superman, he's emotionally sensitive. He has relationship problems. The movie starts off actually with Superman getting his ass kicked, which tells me how that I'm old because I never saw a Superman movie in the 80s and 90s where Superman started getting his ass kicked. No one kicked Superman's ass. If you watch the latest movie, it starts off with him getting beat up really bad. And you're thinking he's going to eventually get it together and come back and win, and he didn't win the fight. He got beat up. And so, but the movie was so good, and I said, okay, they're getting it right. So you know what I did? I bought some Warner Brothers stock, and so as I'm sitting in this theater and I'm sitting here watching this happen, I literally pull out my phone and I just open up my app and I say, let me just buy some shares of this because I think that they're trying to do something here. And so then the stock about just maybe a few weeks later, actually, I got lucky. I did not know this was going to happen, but then that was when the news came out that Paramount was thinking about trying to buy Warner Brothers or HBO. They were on the market. They were going to be sold. Netflix was in it, and Paramount was in it, and or something, right? I don't remember exactly how it emerged, but it became the rumor. of the buyout started to occur. So what happened then was the stock of the company just shot through the roof. So Warner Media stock just went kaboom. It went up maybe 60, 70% or 50% or something. And I was like, look at me, look at how smart I am. That's what happens. The stock market will trick you into thinking that you know what's going on. But let me just tell you, all the research says you cannot predict what a stock price is going to do. So as much as I'd like to sit here and say, oh, I knew it all along. I had a firm disposition that was telling me that I knew by the 23rd of March that the stock was going to make a dramatic shift up. No, nobody knows that. Nobody knows that. Nobody. I have a whole PhD in stock market investing and finance, and nobody. The research says consistently that you cannot predict the direction of an individual stock. So when you go on the internet and your favorite influencer on TikTok says they tell you that a stock is going to go up next week, just go back to that. Just know the research says that that does not happen. If they get it right, it's because they got lucky. It's like me flipping a coin and saying, "Oh, this coin is definitely going to be heads because I know it's going to be heads. I have the psychic vision. I can tell you it's going to be heads." And then it lands on heads, and I say, "See, look, told you I was smart." No, it's because it's either going to be heads or tails, man. You get lucky. You get lucky. Now, if I predict it correctly 10 times in a row, then you might, you might want me to give you some numbers for your lottery ticket because that means I got the juice. But as far as I've seen, I've never seen anybody who could predict the numbers on the Powerball. Because if you are, please call me because we need some money up in here. We're trying to raise some money to build them. All right. So anyway, going back to this, let's go back to so ultimately this merger thing happens, or it starts. The conversation starts when a company becomes rumored to be taken over. The stock price will typically rise because investors are anticipating that the person or the entity that's going to purchase the company is going to pay a premium. They have to pay a premium 9 times out of 10. And the reason they'll pay a premium, and the premium meaning like if the stock price is 25, they'll pay 30 or something, right? And the reason they pay the premium is because the company that is trying to swallow up the other company or merge with the new company, they formed a plan that is based on something you've probably heard of called synergy. Synergy is where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So what they're basically saying is, if we merge with this company, we're going to create a company that is better than our two companies combined. Meaning that, if I merge with you, it's just like marriage. Marriage is a merger, by the way. So when you get married or whatever, think of it like a corporate merger partly, right? Like, because think about it, you get married. I live in my house. I pay $3,000 a month in expenses, my mortgage, my car note, my utilities. You pay 3,000 a month in expenses. Let me ask y'all this. Answer me in the chat, yes or no. If I'm paying 3,000 a month and you're paying 3,000 a month, and we get married, does that automatically mean that we're going to pay 6,000 a month? Does that mean that I'm going to keep paying three, you're going to keep paying three? Or does it happen differently from that in the real world? What do you think? Answer in the chat. Okay, Candace and Eddie, I see you, Eddie Muhammad. Okay. The answer is no. No, Nicole, Miss P, I see you. No. You're maybe we come together and we get a mansion now and we're paying 5,000 a month, right? But which is not three plus three, it's actually five. And so our lives have improved. Why? Well, because number one, we before we were paycheck to paycheck. I'm paying my whole check to pay my bills. You're paying your whole check. Now we come together and we number a couple things are happening. Number one, because we're paying 5,000 a month, we're now living in a house that's much bigger than the one we lived before because we're doing this together now. Number two, we've now got a surplus. We got a profit, right? You see what I'm saying? You got that $1,000 extra per month now. Now the game has changed. Now we've got extra money to start building financial security, which most Americans don't have. And one of the things I will say until I hit my grave is that it's really interesting to me when they talk about how most Americans are struggling financially. Nobody talks about the role of broken relationships in that financial struggle. Nobody talks about the fact that a lot of young people have let go of traditional relationships because they feel it's too restrictive and it's too hard, and it is. It's very hard. But struggling from paycheck to paycheck is very hard. Right? Going to work at that job that you hate is also very hard. The anxiety that comes with financial insecurity is also hard. So it's really like choose your damn hard. Which hard are you going to choose? Either me figuring out a way to make it work with that woman that I selected, or me figuring out a way for me to maintain my relationship with a boss who hates my guts. I don't know. It all sucks, right? It's hard. Things hard. So really, I kind of think that when you're talking about wealth and money, a lot of times it's like these extra possibilities and opportunities that are sitting right in front of us that we don't see, that are right there screaming in our face. To say, hey, maybe if I am a young man and I take my time and I really scope out the women that I'm interested in. So I'm a young guy. Let's say I'm 6'3" and I'm good looking and the girls all love me, and I could, I could do a lot of things. I could imitate the men on TV who glorify sex trafficking and the rappers and try to have 10 girlfriends at one time, which is going to be very expensive. And maybe I'll have some babies mamas later that'll make sure my bank account is nice and empty as I catch a whole bunch of STDs. Or I could say, I've got options and this is my opportunity to make an investment. So I went to Dr. Boyce's class and he told me about options. So options are power, options are wealth. So the fact that I have so many options for mating opportunities means that I've got a type of wealth here that I can actually use to build something that's generationally powerful. And then because I've got all these options, I also now go to another term called investing. So now if I pick a woman, I'm investing something in this person. I'm bringing this person into my generational plan. I'm bringing this person could be the mother of my kids. This person is somebody that I have to select carefully so that we can build properly in the right way. Same thing would be true with women as well, right? You have options. You're young and pretty and gorgeous, and you think you got all the time in the world, which you don't, but you don't realize that till you get older. And you got options. So instead of making the short term decision, that says where she says, oh, he's cute and he's tall and he seems nice. Let me go sleep with him. It's like, no, no, let me think about how this person could fit into this merger. We're about to do a merger. We're about to merge our bodies. We're about to merge our minds. We're about to possibly merge our bank accounts. We're going to spiritually merge. And just like in a corporate merger, in a merger, you must have something very important called synergy. Synergy means that 1 plus 1 is not 2. 1 plus 1 should be 4. 1 plus 1 should be 3. 1 plus 1 should be 6. It should be something bigger than the sum of its parts. And in fact, I see a lot of poor young people where they get into a merger where 1 plus 1 becomes -4. Right, where literally the merger actually it becomes a value destroyer, which is a complete violation of rules of corporate finance. One of the biggest rules of corporate finance that exists is to say that when you merge, when one company marries another one, that merger must lead to something greater than they were able to be alone and individually. It also must be something greater than what they were if you just simply add it all together. There has to be synergies, just like that couple. I'm paying 3K a month, you're paying 3K a month. We get together, we're paying 5K a month. That means we got 6K in income. We've now got a surplus. That surplus is used to invest, create financial security. We can invest, build that side hustle. We can go buy some real estate together, right? Your empire building. See, you got to understand that there is a consciousness level of empire builders that sometimes we're never really introduced to at an early age. Wealthy people introduce their children to this from the time that they're little. Working class people are introduced to struggle mode, survival mode, right? Instant gratification, right? Even in dating and relationships, it's not seen as a power move. It's seen as, hey, I don't know, maybe I'm trying to get good sex, or I want somebody that likes me, or I think that she's cute. I get it. That's all fine and good. That makes you feel good. But here's the thing. Here's what's interesting. I was looking up, you know what I was doing last night? Because I'm such a nerd. I was looking up the meaning of happiness. I said, it was 2:30 in the morning. I've been working all day. I spent time, I went to go see my Aunt Valeria, and my Aunt Valeria is so wonderful. She knows all the old family stories. So she was telling me stories from the 1960s about my family that I didn't know. And I was like, oh, Lord, no wonder we so screwed up. Every family got those generational secrets and curses. And my Aunt Valeria, God bless her, she be telling me all the secrets now that mama done went to heaven. And so anyway, so I was behind on my work. So I stayed up till about 2:33 in the morning. And I was working, and literally for whatever reason, God told me to look up happiness. Like what makes you happy? Because I said, I'm confused because happiness, a lot of people think happiness is like doing stuff that you really like to do, or like, I don't know, like good sex or taking a vacation or buying a new car or whatever, right? And I know that that's not true because these things, what they do is they lead to dopamine spikes. Dopamine spikes wear off. It's like using cocaine or something. Like it's going to make you feel good for a little while and then it levels off. That's why a lot of people, when they think happiness is tied to like material things, they'll buy, like you'll see rappers and athletes, they have a lot of money and they'll go buy, another car to go with another car. Like Floyd Mayweather, that poor he's got like, he'll buy like 10 of the same car, same color, same everything. I don't understand that, right? And so it's like you kind of get in this cycle. I forgot what they call it. They have a term for it where you're just seeking one high after another. Some people do their relationships like this. I read this book a long time ago. I think it was called Love Addicts or something, where they literally enjoy like nice 6 to 9 month relationships because they love the high. They don't really want to do the work that's required to be in love and stay in love and maintain a relationship. They just like falling in love, right? It feels good to fall in love. So they'll fall in love. A lot of y'all probably know people. Tell me if you know somebody like that, where about every 9 months they'll have the person that they were speaking so highly of, suddenly there's all these red flags and all these problems and oh, I had to let her go, or oh, he ain't no good. And you're like, but wait a minute, I thought he was Mr. Wonderful 3 months ago. Well, that's because the sex and all that, right? That's the dopamine, right? So I was looking up the meaning of happiness, and I said I need to see it beyond the dopamine spikes. Like where do you really find that happiness and contentment with life? And let me just tell you what it was. I'm gonna try to remember what it was. It was 4 words that came up. Purpose. So finding something that you don't like, a purpose driven life. Like what is your purpose? Purpose, um, community, like people that around you that love you, contribution, and growth. Yeah, purpose, community, contribution, and growth. Like, are you in a situation where you're consistently growing? Are you doing things in your life that have meaning for you? Or are you just doing something to just pay bills or whatever? Right? That's not a purpose-driven life. So what is, and it doesn't mean that you have to quit your job. It just means what is your purpose? So for some people, maybe raising their kids is their purpose. That's okay, right? Um, but yeah, purpose, growth, community, and contribution. Like, what are you contributing to? Like, who are you helping? Are you helping somebody? Right? Like literally, that's what the scientists say. Those 4 things lead to other chemicals. I can't remember. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was late at night. I'd be up just thinking about stuff, and it was like other chemicals like serotonin and oxytocin and stuff like that. It wasn't dopamine. Dopamine is dope. Dopamine it's a high. If so if you see, behaviors for young people or really older people too. You're chasing the dopamine because maybe you have the trauma that hasn't been healed. So the dopamine kind of numbs the pain and then you go get some more. So that's where addictions can come from, like sex addicts and drug addicts, alcohol addiction, right? Just these things that are going to just help you feel good for a little while. So, anyway, with that being said, imagine if people looked at marriage and relationships as a power move, as a black wealth power move, as opposed to simply an opportunity to get more sex or to just have fun, right? Or, in society, you're not trained to think that way at all. You're trained, in fact, you're vilified for that sometimes. Like we vilify women who say, I kind of want my man to be about something. I want him to have ambition. I want him to have some wealth, right? They say, "Oh, you're a gold digger. You're supposed to date him because he's funny, or you I don't know, you think he looks good, or he loves you, and all these things matter. Love is important. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm saying though that there also has to be some sort of structured plan because you're out here trying to survive in this society, and a lot of people aren't surviving because they're wasting those opportunities. And the word poor stands for what? Passing over opportunities repeatedly. So when you're young and cute and you've got all these options, that's an opportunity for you to form a partnership or a corporate merger that will allow both of you to do better in life. I'm married, and marriage was like going back to school. I had to learn a whole new skill set in order to be a husband because that's different from Boyce the single guy. And it's a difficult trade-off sometimes. My wife and I are different on something. If y'all were at the financial slumber party, you saw one of those differences, like in broad daylight, where she'll say something, I'll be like, no, that's wrong. No, 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 I don't agree with that. No, no, right? And we have to work through that. And I had to learn skill sets to help me process that in a healthy way, right? But what's the trade-off? Well, the trade-off is that, okay, if I can work this out with this person, then I have this person I can build together. I have a teammate where we are acquiring assets together. We'll go buy real estate together. We go and we'll start a business together. We'll do ventures together. We share ideas. We're both scholars, right? I wanted a woman that was as smart as she was cute. I didn't just want a cute girl with an empty head. I needed a woman that was going to have some brains attached to her, right? So long story short, all these things come together to sort of create additional added security. So circling back with Paramount and Warner Brothers, let's go back to that because BET got swallowed up, so black media ownership obviously has been affected by this. But really, the truth of the matter is that from the very beginning, BET for many years, for 30 years, BET hasn't called the shots for itself. There's always been a corporate daddy that's sort of been telling BET what they can and cannot put on the air. And so that would mean, for example, in hip hop, you can say whatever you want that's degrading to black people, but there's some communities they would never allow you to degrade if you know who I'm talking about, right? There's certain communities where it's like, oh, you can call yourself the N-word every day. You can have every rapper using the N-word as much as they want. But if you dare say one word about these other people that are controlling things, then we're going to have a problem. So basically, this is one of the downsides of this, right? Now, it specifically from a financial standpoint, the Paramount Skydance merger is not a good idea because Paramount is going to be taking on way too much debt. I don't think it's going to work. I think it's going to fail. When Netflix bowed out, the Netflix stock shot up like a rocket. It went up like 10% because the shareholders are like, thank God you're not chasing that fat ugly girl anymore that's going to ruin your life, because this company it's a beautiful company. Warner Media is massive, and they have an exhaustive library of content and everything, but they're carrying a lot of debt, and it's a very toxic merger, so it's probably not going to work. But BET is going to be a part of this shit show, and that's what it is. BET Plus is the streaming service. Now, let's talk specifically about a couple more things that relate to just sort of generally what I see here when you're talking about BET being sort of owned and controlled by these other people, the corporate daddy. Before I do that, though, I want to mention really quickly that you guys know we have financial flashcards, workbooks, and stuff like that for your family. So if you want to go take a look, you can go to drboycebooks.com. And there's a new discount code I created, morning discount. Morning discount. I think it'll take 40% off anything in the store. So if you write that down, morning discount, all one word, and go to drboycebooks.com. So my book is there, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. We have financial flashcards for kids, everything from AI to crypto to stock market investing, real estate investing, etc. I would say, one fun thing to do would be to just create like a little school inside your house. Make it really simple, make it fun. Give the kids a couple dollars to learn new terms and stuff like that. That way they form a relationship between what they know and how much money they earn, and get them out of the paycheck mentality early, right? Like one thing that really helped me a lot was when I was a kid, I had a job selling candy door to door, and it was a really hard job. So here I was, it was Louisville, Kentucky, 1983 or 82. I was a little 11, 12-year-old kid that had no money, and I got this opportunity to sell candy door to door. So this lady, this white lady, would drive around in a big van. She probably could have kidnapped us, and I don't know, I'd be sold into sex slavery in Mexico or something. But luckily she didn't do that. She didn't know any Spanish. So instead of selling us into slavery, she would take us to different neighborhoods, and we would basically get this candy, and she would buy these boxes of candy for 75 cents, and we would sell them for $3. And she gave us a whole little script where we would sound nice and cute. I don't know how cute I was though at 12 years old, but still, maybe I was young and handsome or something. I have no idea. But you would read this script and you would basically be like, hi, I am one of the youth that wants to stay out of the street. Like, like, I was like an inch away from prison. Like, if you don't buy this candy, I'm gonna come in your house and kill your whole family, right? So I would, and it was really awkward, right? Ringing some stranger's doorbell, but financial desperation will make you do a lot of stuff. And at first I was really bad. I couldn't sell anything, and then for whatever reason, I just embraced it. And I got good. I became one of the best salespeople on the team. And Saturday morning, she would pick us up at 8 in the morning and drive us out to some neighborhood and give us a route. And she said, "You're going to go down this street, and this street." And I remember I would count the cars. I would look at how many houses had cars in the driveway because that increased the likelihood that somebody was home. Because I got to the point where I was like, "Oh yeah, I know how to get you to buy this overpriced $3 candy, right? Because I'm little Boyce from the hood who's gonna, grow up and go to prison if you don't buy this candy, right?" And so long story short, I made an insane amount of money with this job. But the cool thing was I formed a connection in my head to say, okay, so the harder I work and the better I get at this skill, the more money I'm gonna have. And I enjoyed coming home with a wad of money. It was like, holy crap, it was intoxicating. There's the dopamine, right? So dopamine's okay sometimes, right? In the sense that I formed a relationship between the pleasurable feeling of having money and the task of learning how to sell. That was my formative understanding that sales drive everything. So if and in fact, I tell your kids, if you know how to sell, you can probably make money in almost any. And if you know how to sell and create a business around what you're doing, there's a business model. So I hate it when people. There's this guy named Scott Galloway. I can't stand this guy sometimes. He gets on my nerves. I don't dislike him completely, but he goes on TV and he says stuff that just sounds wimpy and stupid to me. And he was saying something like, he's like, "Do not listen to people who tell you to follow your dreams. You can't follow your dreams. You got to go into something that's going to get you a good job, and you can't get a job in your dream." And I'm not saying that he's wrong completely. I get it. I heard these same things. Like you can't just go to college and major in anything and think that that's going to work out. But I said, no, actually, you can follow your dreams if you know how to create a business model around what you're doing. And also, your dream doesn't have to pay your bills all the time. I think following your dreams creates those things that we talked about earlier that create happiness, purpose, growth, community, and contribution, right? So follow your dream. Your purpose is probably somewhere in your dream. I think, I don't know, you follow your dream, you're probably getting closer to your purpose because there's a reason that dream attracted you. And I think it's okay to have a dream, but you got to also have your feet grounded in the reality of making sure that you can pay your bills as you pursue the dream. Do you understand? And really, if you love your children and your grandchildren, then my job as a father, grandfather, all these things is to help clear out the bullshit. Excuse my French. I didn't mean to say, but it came to mind. I had to say this. Clear out all the distractions like gotta pay bills, gotta go to work, gotta make sure I can get all that out the way so you can be clear, have the clarity, and see what your dream and what your purpose is, and have the ability to go pursue that. I told our youngest her dream is to be a dancer and singer and actress. And I said, yeah. I said, well, most people can't, I said, in life, you have the inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I said, in my view, most people can't pursue happiness because they got to go pay bills or they don't know what makes them happy in the first place. And I said, remember that the inalienable rights, which I believe in, it doesn't say that you're guaranteed life, liberty, and happiness. It says you're guaranteed the right to pursue happiness, the pursuit of happiness, which means sometimes happiness is somewhere over there and you got to go get it. And I said, most people can't pursue happiness because they got to go to work that day. And so I said, so my job is not to tell you what your profession should be. Who am I to tell you what your dream should be? I can't tell you what your purpose is. That's God's job. God did that. I can't. I'm just a guide. But what I can do is I can show you how money works. I can show you how to invest. I can invest for you so that when you start to form that connection, when you sat and you meditated and you formed a direct line to God, and He says, this is your purpose, this is your vision, and you say, I want to pursue that type of happiness, then there's nothing stopping you from doing it. There's no barrier there. Do you understand? See, a lot of people, we always talk about Black people about being free and everything. Freedom is the ability to pursue your purpose, to pursue the things that you want in life. A lot of people aren't free because they're stuck. They're stuck doing something they don't want to do. Right? And that really is a formula for complete misery, actually. So ultimately, I didn't like I got mad. This guy Galloway guy was talking. I wanted to throw something at the screen because I said, stop telling people that they can't pursue their dreams. You just have to understand enough about life and have some teammates that love you enough to say, no, 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 we're gonna block for you, son. We're gonna make sure that we're putting money into that trust fund so that when you see daylight, like a running back in a football game, when you see that opportunity to sprint to the end zone, you're going to get there. Like just like in football, no running back in the history of football can score touchdowns without having somebody block for him, right? If you know anything about football, you'll know that if you have a terrible offensive line, that can make a great quarterback look like a terrible quarterback. Go to the Chicago Bears. They have this guy named Caleb Williams. I think that's his name. This was a quarterback. He was a great quarterback in college, but when he came to the Bears, he became a terrible quarterback. And it wasn't because he became a terrible quarterback. It was because nobody was blocking for him. Then suddenly they went and they paid money and they got people to come block for him. Suddenly he becomes all pro. He becomes an amazing quarterback. He didn't change. He didn't change. He just had somebody blocking for him. Do you understand? So really the question is when you talk about children pursuing dreams and becoming their best selves and pursuing opportunities, the question that I always ask in general in my head is who's really blocking for you? Who's blocking for you? Because if nobody's blocking for you, then life does become very hard. It's very difficult. And who's blocking for your kids? Are you blocking for them? Or are you going to just blow the bag and then, act like somehow you're a 45, 50-year-old product of your environment? Stop that, man. That's crazy. That's ridiculous. You're not a child. You're a grown man. You're a grown woman. Stop that. If you have enough awareness to know that your environment has shaped you, then you have enough awareness to know how to fix it. If you consider that, well, I didn't nobody teach me nothing, and I did it. Well, if you're smart enough to have that type of a reflection, then that means you're also smart enough to say, okay, how do we solve and fix this? You're just not doing it because you're lazy. I get it. It's easy because you live in a society where every day they're like, well, you're black. Of course you can't read. Of course you don't take care of your kids. Of course you keep going back to jail and da 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 da. Of course you get up every morning and smoke weed instead of reading a book. I mean, come on now. Really, I mean, so really, if you're talking about happiness, and remember, happiness, was it purpose, growth, community, contribution, purpose, are you doing something that you're really passionate about, something that you feel is your purpose? Growth, are you growing in the process? If you're constantly growing, then that is when you are the most alive. Michael Jordan wrote in his book, and when I read it when I was 21, or 22, because I was going through a really difficult time, and I wanted to learn how to be a winner. And he might be an asshole, but this man knows how to win. And one thing he said that I really liked was he said that when you stop growing, you start dying. That literally, as long as you're growing, you're alive. That's when you're your most alive. When you stop growing, you're on your pathway to death. So spiritually, physically, and everything else. So where are you growing? Community. That means thinking carefully about what your community is going to be. Like Chuck D says, from Public Enemy. I don't know Chuck. He follows me on Twitter though. He seems like a nice guy. And he said that if you can't change the people around you, you got to change the people around you. A lot of you might have people around you who just aren't going to grow, who aren't going to change. They're not black, they're not Negroes, they're need to grows, as Dr. Claude Anderson uses that term, need to grows. And so if you can't change the people around you, you change the people around you. You find a community that it's going to block for you, that wants to see you do well. And then and that might start with your partner, whatever, right? And then the last part is contribution. Like who are you helping? Who are you here to support, right? Because that's how you live into the next generation. All right, now with that said, let's finish up with this BET thing because I want you to understand a few things about ownership and power. Because we actually started off talking about Tyler Perry, and I don't want to fall too far away from that point. And it's not negative about Perry, it's just speaking on this whole BET thing. First thing is that when you're talking about media, you got to know that ownership is different from influence. A lot of people want to be influencers, and we talk about who has great cultural influence. Like Kendrick Lamar has tremendous cultural influence, and there was an interesting lawsuit around that whole Kendrick Lamar Drake thing. They went through, they went through, and they did an analysis. From what I understand, this is what I saw. I haven't doubly confirmed this, but what I saw is they went through and they did an analysis on Spotify where they wiped away all the bots that were listening to your music. Because that's how some of the artists get so many listens, because the numbers will be astronomical. And Before they did the analysis, Drake and Kendrick both had about 1.7 billion streams in for a given month. After they took away the bots, Drake still had 1.7 billion. Kendrick went down by a whole billion. They literally went from 1.7 down to 7 or 800 million. And again, I said, whoa, that's kind of a big deal. So what that really says to me probably is that somebody was mad at Drake and they said, okay, we're gonna destroy you. And this is what ownership lets people do. They have the power to decide who the stars are going to be, what the narrative is going to be. And so influence ain't the same as ownership. Ownership is the ultimate form of influence. So creators can control culture. Black people are known for shaping culture, but corporations control distribution. They decide which part of the culture is going to be sent out to the world. Right? What image of Black people is the world going to see? Are they going to see the Boyce Watkinses of the world, or are they going to see the Sexy Reds of the world? The Sexy Red is this rapper. Don't go watch her video. It'll just make your eyes hurt. But anyway, so the owner of the distribution is the winner long term. In fact, these are things that children can be trained on early. It's important for them to understand this so that they understand where the real power lies. The power is not in being connected to the plug. The power is to be the plug. When you are the plug and you are the power source. So that's what distribution and ownership really does. All right. Also, one thing about BET is that BET is kind of a niche platform. They're focusing specifically on a certain niche, and I don't have anything necessarily against that. I'm probably a niche platform because I like talking to Black people. I don't hate white people. I just don't have a lot in common with them. And so ultimately, there's nothing wrong with having a niche platform, but a lot of the power in media is driven by streaming companies whose goal is to aggregate, right? So they saw BET Plus sitting over here as a standalone service. They said, we're going to buy you so that we can add you to the pile so that we can really play this big media game, which they're playing with billions of dollars. And it's a powerful game, 100%, right? If you look at media, you will see that most media ownership is concentrated with a small group of people, most of whom have the same cultural and religious background, if you know what I'm talking about, right? And I get that, but sometimes that game becomes very toxic because it becomes kind of almost a winners take all kind of mentality. And the amount of debt and leverage that they will pursue in order to do that is unbelievable. And it's not as lucrative as you might think in the sense that when it goes bad, it goes really bad. It goes really bad. And so sometimes it works. Like I saw Netflix, when Netflix was making something like, I don't know, $1 billion a month from all the streaming subscriptions because they have such a great algorithm and everything. And for whatever reason, they still went out and borrowed another $15 billion. And I remember thinking, why would you borrow $15 billion if you're making $1 billion a month from streaming? But that's just a difference in mindset with business, right? They were thinking, no, we want to own and control everything. And this is a pro and a con of capitalism. It's a pro in the sense that that amount of ambition and aggression is why America is the economic superpower of the planet. We literally our religion is not Christianity. It's not, it's not Islam. It's our religion is money, right? And there's a downside to that, right? On one hand, you have vast amounts of economic power, but on the other hand, you become very extreme. You see the us taking the military to different parts of the world, picking on people that didn't even do anything to us, so that we can go in there and take their oil or whatever, like what Obama did in Libya, what Trump is doing in Iran, right? Just all these different activities that we see that are not necessary. It's not necessary. And the rest of the world doesn't understand that. So to some extent, that's the downside of capitalism because it really breeds greed. It does. All right. So anyway, moving on. Also, when you talk about ownership of media, capital is really one of the most important parts of it all. It's not about sort of being on the stage. We raise our kids to want to be on the stage. I think we should raise our kids to own the stage. Like I talk about Tyler Perry to our youngest because I say, Tyler Perry's been making like these horrible movies for a long time. I'm kidding, they're not horrible. I'm not in his demographic. He probably knows that, right? So anyway, I say he's been making these movies where I'm just like, I'm just shaking my fist in the air. But shout out to this man. This man, you know what? He never has to audition for a role for the rest of his life because he's making the movie, and so he can decide that, you know what, Medea's going to star in this movie too, and I'm going to get to put on the dress and be the star of the movie. And I said that's so much easier than going to all these auditions and hoping that somebody picks you. I said you should probably pick yourself, and you pick yourself by investing in yourself. And it's a difficult game, it's a challenge, but I find that people are much more. It ends up becoming much more rewarding, especially if you're a person who's not really built to work for other people or doesn't, you find yourself just not really happy in uncomfortable, toxic, or oppressive environments. Well, sometimes some of you have kids like that. Some of you have kids who will never do well working for other people. And I think it's very important to position them to know, well, you always have a choice. And the thing is, every choice is hard. Me working for other people is hard because someone's telling me what to do and I got to do things I don't want to do and things like that. But then starting my own enterprise is hard too. I have to pick up a new skill set. I've got to deal with the ups and downs of being the boss and being the owner. It's very lonely being the leader, being the boss. It is. It is. It's very lonely because the buck stops with you. You don't know. No one really feels sorry for the owner of the company, even if everybody got paid except for you. As the owner of a business, I've had times where every single person that works with me or works for me got paid except for me. I had a negative. I worked the hardest, and I literally worked from sun up to sundown and made negative money, right? And so the question is, can you even justify that psychologically to be the hardest working person in your organization and make negative money? That's that's the cost you have to bear as the owner. And so it's not to say one is automatically better than the other. Each can be better than the other depending on the situation. Sometimes having the consistent paycheck can be better than having ownership. Sometimes ownership is better than having the consistent paycheck. The idea really is just simply being good at what path you choose, right? Just choosing, just saying, okay, this is where I am. I'm about that life. That's where I want to position myself, and then becoming the best you can be at being whatever it is you're choosing to become. So I'm choosing to become the owner. I'm going to learn how to be an owner. I'm going to learn how to be an investor. I'm going to learn how to be a boss. I'm going to learn how to do all these things. And I know that there's a cost to being the boss, and I'm willing to pay that cost and make that investment because it's worth it for me, right? But everybody's different, so it's up to you to decide how to approach that. Also, a couple more things is with media is that the ability to create content is nice, and being a creator is really important. But it's actually the platforms that have the power, and so platforms control distribution. They also control customer data and also subscription revenue. That's why they're able to call the shots and do whatever they want. Amazon had this crazy thing that they did to Toys R Us. Amazon was one of the first of many entities that abused Toys R Us. Toys R Us was doing really well in the 1990s, making money hand over fist. They had thousands of workers. Well, the digital age came in. So the internet's here. Toys R Us is trying to figure out what their strategy is going to be. So Amazon says, hey, look, don't worry about building out a whole digital infrastructure and all that. Like we got you. Like just sell your toys on Amazon, and we'll handle the technology piece. And so Toys R Us said, okay, that sounds like a good deal. So Toys R Us uses Amazon as their official online distributor of toys. And the agreement was that you can't sell toys anywhere else if you're Toys R Us. And Amazon's agreement was we won't let any other toy sellers onto the Amazon platform. Well, what happened was, according to reports, Amazon violated their end of the deal. Amazon started cheating on Toys R Us, and they started bringing other toy manufacturers onto the platform. So of course, Toys R Us is like, "What the hell, man? Like this is BS. You're destroying you're undermining our agreement. So we're going to sue you. Well, I'll sue you, you bastard. I'll see you in court." Well, courts take a long time to get a result. So Amazon's like, okay, yeah, all right, bet, see you in court. So Amazon and Toys R Us battle in court for years. The whole time, Toys R Us or Amazon is destroying Toys R Us's brand in the sense that they're selling all these toys from other distributors. They're taking data from Toys R Us. They're getting all their customer data. They're literally picking up all their customers, And so it's like, thank you. You've taught us how to sell toys, what toys to sell. Your customers, we know how to get to them and with a better deal. So by the time this lawsuit is done, Toys R Us wins a judgment, but Amazon has won the battle and won the war. Amazon owns all of your customer relationships now. They have the platform now. And so Toys R Us, if you want to know how it ended, Toys R Us has been just kicked around very badly, bankruptcy, all these things. Private equity companies came along and abused them as well. And Toys R Us is not what it used to be when we were kids. Remember, I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. Remember, Toys R Us seemed very powerful, and it used to be, but it's not anymore. And a lot of that came down to the fact that Amazon controlled the platform, the distribution, the customer data. The data was really important. And this, and now Amazon's doing fine. They're diversified. They got a bunch of people selling products on Amazon. So not to say this is how you should do business, but this is one of the realities that can occur. So maybe with Toys R Us, a better approach might have been to say, no, 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 no. Thank you for the offer, but we're gonna pursue our own strategy. We're gonna take the long route to get this done. We're gonna pay a little bit more so we can protect our customer relationships, right? Sometimes that short-term win is not worth the long-term sacrifice. So ultimately, those are that's pretty much everything I wanted to say about all this and the Tyler Perry stuff and everything else. And I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys benefited from this conversation. And also on my Instagram, I put something up there that a few things you guys can take a look at. I'll show you guys really quickly that in terms of things that are happening, as well as some stuff might want to go take a look at. So first off, there's a group that I'm speaking for this week, and it's in Illinois, and I should mention this group because they're doing really extraordinary work. Let's see, let me share this. All right, so they have this little video, and I don't know. It's part of they're part of NARAB. I told you I went to go speak for NARAB with the Realtists, the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, and I just had so much fun. I just wanted to join, like, because I just love that group so much. What they're doing is amazing. They understand Black wealth. They understand the assignment, and I think that organizations like this should be as strong as possible because that's really one of those things that's going to move the needle forward for Black people is ownership of assets. So I met a lady there. I don't have her name in front of me, but she invited me to speak for her group in Chicago or Illinois. I'm sorry, and I'm going to play this video. I hope you guys will watch it with me. I haven't even seen it, so let's see it. I'm going to share my audio here.
Partnership with Home, NARAB, and the Broker Action Coalition, and proudly supported by Diamond partner United Wholesale Mortgage, we're bringing together industry leaders committed to real impact. High-level sessions, BMPA awards, celebrity keynotes from Dr. Boyce Watkins, founder of the Black Business School. Join for elite networking with industry leaders March 19th and 20th at the Wind Creek Southland Hotel and Casino in East Hazel Crest, Illinois. Let's build the future of homeownership together. Click the link in our bio to secure your seat.
Yeah, so if you happen to live near Illinois or in the state of Illinois, you can go to East Hazel Crest. Looks like they're going to be at the Wind Creek Casino. That looks pretty nice. Casinos are nice. They always have good food. So I'm really excited about that. And I look forward to meeting everybody. And yeah, if you want to come by and hang out, feel free to stop by. So we've got great people in our communities that are doing amazing things. Now, this was interesting. I shared this right now. If you want to know an update on what's going on with the oil crisis, here's what my $2 assessment is on the oil thing and what's happening in the Middle East. There's a lot of misinformation around this war. In fact, I've even heard possible reports that Netanyahu may not be among the living anymore, and they are going out of their way to try to manage the perception of who's winning. And um, I don't know exactly what to believe, but I do know that it's not what Trump is saying that it is. It's not what the Iranians in Dubai are saying. Everybody's kind of managing information, right? So, for example, in Dubai, they're sending people to prison for posting videos of missiles hitting Dubai because you're literally talking about $1 trillion worth of brand building that's just been destroyed with Dubai. People don't feel safe anymore. Dubai used to attract all the billionaires and everybody else, all these wealthy people that wanted, like, lots of sun and to be among the rich and famous, and now it's that whole image has just been destroyed. So Dubai is doing what tends to happen in a lot of Arab countries. They tend to rule with an iron fist, so they're sending people to jail for posting videos of the missiles, which to me, I don't see how that's going to work. I think that's going to hurt them, actually. I think Qatar, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it might have been Qatar that was doing that. I was going to fly Qatar Airlines. I'm not going to fly Qatar Airlines when I go to South Africa, just because I don't need a missile hitting my plane. That would probably ruin my day. So, with that said, though, the misinformation has created kind of a cloud around what's going on. The big economic issue is the Strait of Hormuz. Who's controlling that? And what I saw that was really fascinating was that people that want to get their oil through the Strait of Hormuz, which is a really important choke point for oil distribution, they're now negotiating with the Iranians. They're literally like, almost like how you pay the gang leader to shoot your movie in gang territory. They're negotiating with the Iranians to say, hey, look, if we give you some money or whatever, can you let our ships through the excuse me, the strait? And will be cool. So that is a signal that American power might be dropping, and it also speaks to possible spikes in the price of oil. I think I wouldn't be surprised if the price of oil keeps going up. They're releasing lots of excess, supply and reserves and all that, even letting the Russians distribute oil. They got rid of some of those sanctions, but I think the price of oil is still going to go up. The price of the pump is going to go up. I think Trump opened up a Pandora's box that he's going to regret. I think his arrogance caused him to believe that he could treat Iran like it was Venezuela, and that's the mistake that he made. So it's going to create more volatility. Protect your stocks, because this could lead, when the world realizes this, I think it could lead to a really calamitous decline in the stock market. Okay. What else? Okay, so this was a video that was up there. You can go check that out later. But this is where a guy was explaining exactly how families end up going broke when somebody gets sick. So I would suggest, feel free to go to Instagram, Dr. Boyce Finance, and you can take a look at that. And I wanted to show you, oh, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but D1 and I apparently were successful in getting the NBA to cancel Magic City night at the Atlanta Hawks game. I called D1 and I said, because D1, he's the rapper, he's a great guy, and I said, you know what? I think when you talk about what's going on with the Magic City thing, I think you should mention this. I said, most people would not want their daughters on a stripper pole. Like, as much as we want to say, oh no, Magic City is wonderful, it's part of the culture, it's a great, tradition. I think that's cool, but I'm sure lynchings were a great tradition for some families too, right? Just, let's go have a picnic and watch a black man hanging from a tree. But nobody ever asked, the guy on the tree if it was, if this tradition was good or not. So I said, maybe you should survey the ladies that work in these clubs and ask them, is this a profession that you would choose if you had other options? And what the research showed is, and I just mentioned, I said, just use the data. I said, most 95% of all women that work in strip clubs, they do so out of financial desperation. It's not their first choice. They do it because they didn't have a daddy around to provide for them financially or whatever it is, right? Two, I said they have a PTSD level that matches combat soldiers. They, like, people that go to Iraq and fight in wars have the same level of PTSD as a lot of strippers, because strippers are exposed to a lot of violence, a lot of harassment, things like that. Three, I said, strip clubs are used as the primary breeding ground slash recruiting space for sex traffickers. So when pimps are looking for employees, they will go to the strip club. And as a result, 61% of strippers have sold their bodies for money at some point. And then the last kicker was, I said, there's a high rate of studies. This is research. Studies have shown there's a high rate of drug and alcohol addiction that results from the disassociation necessary that a stripper must go through in order to even deal with the day-to-day of her job. So she might be making money, but it goes back to what we've discussed before, which is that all money ain't good money, right? Just because you made money don't mean it was a good job, right? And so D1 did that. He did a whole song about it and everything, and I just love it. I'll tell you, I love. See, I can't rap. I'm terrible at it, but he's good at it. And so sometimes we'll talk, and he'll next thing I know, he's making a song about it. He one time I said on an interview with Vlad TV, I said, yeah, I said D1 is Lil Wayne in another universe. I said they have the same New Orleans accent. They both have dreads. But one is just different from the others, like they were separated at birth. Next thing I know, D1 makes a whole mixtape called Separated at Birth, and he takes all of Lil Wayne's beats, and he raps over the beats, except he's rapping life into people as opposed to death. And I thought that was just beautiful. So I just have so much respect for him. So he gets on the phone, he calls the NBA, and he knows more of the celebrity types than I do. I don't really hang out with celebrities that much. And lo and behold, they canceled it. And I thought it was great. I thought it was a win for the culture. It's hard for him though, because sometimes when you're doing the right thing, it's not going to be popular. I love Atlanta. I have a house here. I have a lot of friends here. I have a lot of friends that are in the music industry, and I'm willing to have conversations with them about it. But I say, come on, like I mean, would you want your daughter working in Magic City? If that's not the case, then why would we celebrate something like that? Why not celebrate something else, right? That's it. So that's something. So that was a touchdown. We got that done. I'm super proud of him for standing on business with that because it was a more of a he paid a higher price for that position than I did. Like a lot of people already dislike me because I say stupid stuff sometimes. He has a lot of friends. He has a lot of people that he engages with in the industry, and I'm sure they're not happy with this. So this really showed me that he's a man of principle, and I just respect that. All right, so moving
So
on.
Pastor Jamal Bryant says that the Target
Okay,
boycott
okay,
is
let me
over.
let me turn this off. All right, so I did something. You can go watch this if you want to. The Target boycott apparently is over. Pastor Jamal Bryant made the announcement. At least he says that it's over, and I think there's a big conversation that has to happen in terms of black leadership, and a lot of people disagreed with him and said no, it's not over. Nina Turner, who's a politician, I don't know Nina Turner, but she's one of the few politicians I actually would be okay with having a conversation with because she seems to be a Democrat who really gets it, right? Like she really says, like, okay, y'all need to fix this because if you don't, you're going to lose the black community. And another woman that I worked with before, Tamika Mallory, was saying like, no, 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 it's not over. The boycott's not over. And that led to the immediate question of like, okay, what happened to cause you to announce that it's over? Like, why are you going out of your way to say, hey, it's officially over. We can all go back to Target now. That seems very intentional, right? And which makes it ultimately suspicious. And then on top of that, to make matters even crazier, there's a lady who says, no, I started the boycott, and all of y'all are illegitimate. All of you have no credibility, which bothers me as well because that kind of comes into ego a little bit. And so here's what my assessment on that is, just briefly on that. One is there is the long held tradition that the pastor speaks for the black community, and sometimes that pastor slash civil rights leader will inject themselves into something that no one invited them to be a part of, right? Because maybe they like the cause and they'll suddenly proclaim themselves to be the leader and they're holding press conferences and all that. I think I told you about the experience I had with Mountain Dew and Lil Wayne and Al Sharpton, how Sharpton suddenly just appeared out of nowhere. And the lady from Emmett Till's family that I was working with, she said, "Who invited him? Like he didn't even do anything. He wasn't even a part of this." But that really is more of a top down thing. It's the powers that be, those who were part of Mountain Dew, they were like, oh, if you want to talk to black people, you have to talk to this guy, right? And because he's positioned himself as a political boss, I think that's a net failure for the black community. And so I think Pastor Bryant, he actually apologized, which I thought was the best move for him to make. I thought it was a great. I actually liked his apology. People didn't seem to like it, but I actually kind of liked it because when you're talking about things like this, here's the thing. Number one, the big boycott that needs to be addressed, in my opinion, is the boycott that we all have against black-owned businesses. That's the boycott that needs to end. Black people boycott black businesses, white people boycott black businesses, which is the number one reason black businesses fail. Given that your attention and your economics are a limited resource, and you only have so much money, you only have so much attention. If we put all of our attention on our own businesses and put all of our resources into our own businesses, then a target boycott is not necessary, nor would it be effective because you don't even have time to boycott Target because you're so busy supporting your own, right? If I'm neglecting my own kids to go babysit somebody else's kids, and then I get mad and say, well, I'm not going to watch your kids until you treat me right, then what that says is that my default response is that if you're nice to me, I'm going to keep neglecting my own children and come back and babysit yours, but you got to pay me an extra $5 an hour or whatever. But so that evades the most fundamental, most critical question, which is why the hell are you not taking care of your own damn children? Right? Why are you with his kids in the first? Why are you even there? Right? You ever have that when something stupid happens in your life and your mama, your daddy's like, you shouldn't have even been in that situation, right? That's consciousness. They're like you're like, no, well then he said this and then she threw the Kool-Aid on me and then they turned the TV off and I got mad because and then somebody be like, well, why were you even in the crack house in the front? I'm playing. Well, yo, like, why were you even over there? You shouldn't even be like, why so that's really it. I'm like, well, why are you even there? Why are you in, not to guilt shame you about going to Target. You should go to Target. That's fine. We'll do whatever you want to do. But, we got to ask, like, why were we even there? Why are we, why is the boycott such a threat? Well, it's because they are dependent and expecting an extreme amount of economic loyalty from the Black community. And I want you to ask yourself one simple question. Imagine if we supported Black-owned businesses as much as we support Target and Walmart. Like imagine if you took, let's say Black people spend, 50 billion a year in Target and Walmart combined. Imagine if that 50 billion a year just all went toward Black businesses, Black people stuff, Black schools, whatever. That would be a game changer. That would be a much greater game changer than starting a boycott, ending a boycott. Because the boycotts imply that you are in a relationship that you shouldn't be in the first place. I hope that makes sense. Tell me if you get what I'm saying. I think that elevating the thinking on these things is really important, and that's why when people ask me what I thought about the boycott, I was like, I don't think about it. I'm too busy. I'm not. If I come out and I say Dr. Boyce wants to announce a boycott, Um, I'm going to boycott John Deere, the company that makes tractors. And John Deere, if you don't give in to my demands, I'm never going to buy another John Deere tractor from you ever again. John Deere would be like, we don't care because you don't buy tractors from us in the first place, right? Right. So when you're taking something away, that might mean that you were giving too much in the first place. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying? Like you're leaving the abusive relationship and saying I'll only come back if you do this, this, and this. But some people would say, well, maybe Tina, you should be married to Ike anyway. You shouldn't even be negotiating with this man. Elevate your consciousness. Find a place that actually loves you, right? So that's the position I have on it. But it does seem like a big mess, and it is unfortunate. And I do believe that the model of Black leadership, the centralized model where there's like one HNIC that everybody goes through, that has to you got to leave that in the 1970s, 1980s. No, lead yourself, lead your own family because only you know what your family needs. In fact, the power of Bitcoin, one of the reasons that Bitcoin is so powerful is because of the decentralization. The blockchain allows uh, a currency to exist. It allows for an economic ecosystem to exist without things like central banks. And why would they want that? Well, they want that because the central banks they hoard all this power and they use this power to their own advantage because everything has to go through the same little peephole in order for the money to get distributed. And they're like, why would we need that? How about we do a blockchain where every computer in the blockchain has all the data and all the transactions. That way we know nobody's getting robbed and we cut the transaction costs and everybody's happier that way. So black leadership needs to be blockchain type leadership. It needs to go to blackchain, meaning like decentralized. That means every household, every family, in my view, should be equipped with all the primary tools and skills required to lead your family, lead your children in a way that you see fit, that's going to really work for you, because you are the purest form of perception in terms of what you actually need. Some guy on TV cannot tell every Black person in America what they need to do. That don't even make no damn sense. I can't tell you that. I can only be a guide or a source that can help you to make the decision that ultimately belongs to you. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. All right. So anyway, I'm done. Thank you for listening. It was great to see you guys. And yeah, don't forget, if you want to get a copy of my book, you can go to drboycebooks.com, and we have financial flashcards, workbooks, all that stuff. Make sure you're on the text list for the class. Text the word morning to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948. And I will see you guys soon, and have a great day.